holidays nale, adu namma GT Holidays da. South India's #1 travel brand.
Join the team. Which values you and your thoughts? Hiring now.
Hello and welcome to Galata Plus. In this video review episode, which we are doing back in a familiar background, we are going to be talking about Zoya Akhtar's The Archies. The film is perfectly cast and it is a near perfect comic book confection. It handles heavy issues with a feather light touch. And if you have not read The Archies or familiar with the comics, I don't know how you're going to find this review, but if you've read the comics, then this is how you may feel. The opening shot of The Archies, it takes us through clouds and into this fantasy fairy tale land and deposits us in Riverdale. That's where most of the story takes place, of course. It is a place filled with Anglo-Indians. It is the 1960s and the world, at least not this world, it has not yet curdled into cynicism. Bookstore owners set aside time in order to cultivate the reading habit in children. Ice cream store owners know exactly how to prepare the milkshake that a customer wants. Girls manage to remain best friends even when they love the same boy. And gay boys who are unable to verbalize their emotions, they still find compassion and understanding in friends. Teenage girls write down their feelings in Dear Diaries, and even the evil corporate villain, he accepts his defeat with utmost grace. It's practically heaven, and that perhaps explains the fact that we travel through those clouds in the opening shot. The only hellish aspect is that Green Park, the center of this very system, this ecological system called Riverdale, that is going to be demolished. It is the town's beating heart of greenery and memories, and it is going to give way to a concrete complex. Will they be able to prevent this? Zoya Akhtar's film is about big issues. It is about eco-conservation. It is about accepting your roots. It is about youth power. It is about fighting for what you believe in. It is about understanding that ambition does not mean having to sell your soul. It is about civic duty. It is about adolescent navigation through love and sexuality, and so on and so forth. We just got a heavy dose of big issues from Zoya Akhtar and Rima Kakri's production house, Tiger Baby, and that was called Made in Heaven Season 2. The issues were long drawn and they were very heavy handed, but that is not the case here. Zoya Akhtar's direction is superb. She handles this material with the feather light touch, and she and her co-writers, Aisha Devitt-Dillon and Rima Kakri, they managed to capture the conciseness of a comic book. You can practically see each scene unfolds in those 3-strip or 4-strip panels. They are that two-dimensional. At the same time, they carry a little bit of weight. So you know this is the essence of the Archie comics. Like I said earlier, I don't know how this is going to play to those who haven't read the comics, but if you have, you'll recognize that this is the exact tonality of the comics. The character writing is pitch perfect, and so is the cast. You know, of course, who the cast is. There's Agastya Nanda, there's Suhana Khan, there's Khushi Kapoor, there's Dot, there's Vedang Raina, there's Mihir Ahuja, there's Yuvraj Menda. There's a whole bunch of people, and not one of them is out of place. To be fair, I don't know how any one of these people would fare in a bigger, more dramatic production where they're asked to deliver some 10,000 emotions or something like that. For this movie, though, they are all perfectly cast. If there's a complaint that I have about the characters, it is that one of the most beloved of Archie's characters, his jalopy, is nowhere in sight, because that is one of the most important things of Archie's and the Archie's comics, and that's where I learned the word. When Betty and Veronica decide to confront Archie about his apparent two-timing, we expect a dramatic scene, but it's actually a very fun scene. It almost feels like a very fun scene because that's the tonality of the scene. And just before that, we get the scene where Veronica says Archie is playing them, and Betty, who's the sweet person usually, she says, maybe he's just a little confused. That's a very real thing, because later Archie too says that how can anyone love just one person? So real life, that is the real life as we know it today with all these confusions, does peek in, but just a little bit and just enough. There are many, many beautiful little scenes like this. There's one between Dilton and Reggie. There's a really beautiful scene where Betty and Archie make up after a mini Cold War. There's one about Moose becoming a genius. There's one where Jughead undergoes food torture. And there's one where Archie's father says that they may be minorities, but they still belong to this mulk. That's a deliberate word. I was reminded of two films. One is Warren Beatty's comic book adaptation, Dick Tracy, where everything was deliberately two-dimensional and the character arcs were just enough to contain like slivers of shades. You just got a hint of the personality, and that was enough for that movie. And that's what's the case here. The other movie I was reminded of was the John Travolta, Olivia Newton-John musical Grease, which is set in the 1950s, and is essentially a musical, as in not just a movie with 5 songs, but it's a musical with like non-stop singing amidst all the talking, which is like how the Broadway thing goes. Now, in a 3-dimensional drama, there is a typical drama. The conversion of the apolitical Archie Andrews into a political being might have taken a few scenes, but here all it takes is one joyous number, and the songs are superb, and the choreography is superb, and the way these songs take the film forward, that is also wonderful. Every song has meaning. The first song is called Suno, of course, and it's basically Archie Andrews telling the audience, Suno, ye meri kahani hai, this is my story. I also love the way Betty's little voiceovers were made into mini musicals. That is, they're just 1 or 2 lines, but they're just for Betty and they're just for her voiceovers, and it's almost like little diary entries written in song. In Indian movie terms, Zoya and team managed to capture the feel of those hill station comedy dramas where Shami Kapoor or Biswajit or Joy Mukherjee used to take us to the hand and lead us through essentially plotless films that just had a lot of joy in them and moment-to-moment invention. Every scene or every conflict lasts just about the length of 3 or 4 panels in a comic, like I said. So we very quickly move between Archie and Betty, Betty and Veronica, Moose, Dilton, Reggie, Ethel, all these people. No one is kept in for too long. We don't get very long drawn scenes. Everyone keeps shuffling and juggling, and this keeps the movie rolling along very nicely. No one or no issue is allowed to become a pain. That is, they don't last long enough to become a pain. And even the biggest issue of all, that of saving the Green Park, is treated very lightly. The one thing I miss though is that I felt that this big stretch at the end could have used a little more energy, because the film slackens down in pace towards the end, and I felt it could have used some of that musical energy from the first half, because the songs now become serious and sentimental, and I wish that that flavor had been a little different. It had been the flavor of the earlier part of the film. All said and done, the only real issue I had with this film is over length. The film is a double digest. It lasts 2 hours and 23 minutes, and this towards the end, when we see the ending coming from a mile away, it becomes a little bit of a problem, but not enough, because the old world charm that really works big time, especially with the cinematography, which is like buttery and beautiful and bright, and it just invokes all that nostalgia. Now, this is the movie I would love to see on a big screen. That's it about the Archies. If you like this video review, do subscribe to Galata Plus, and see you soon at the movies.
Holidays nale, adu namma GT Holidays da. South India's #1 travel brand.
Join the team. Which values you and your thoughts? Hiring now.